Welcome to Strong Girl Style. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, did you know it has been a whole year since I've started my podcast? What a journey this has been. Oh my gosh, you guys. I remember when I first started and how nervous and scared that I was to do this. And here we are a year later. I would have never thought. I feel like, honestly, from episode 1 to now is probably like night and day, just in terms of how much more comfortable I am talking into this little microphone of mine in my living room. But also just with sharing all my thoughts and feelings. I think before I always felt like I didn't really have anything of value to share, but I've come to realize that that's definitely not true. And I always want to continue sharing with you guys because not only could it help someone listening, but you don't even know how much it also helps me to just reflect and grow on all the things that I've experienced in the year. I feel like before I never really used to listen to podcasts that often. Like, I was very against listening to podcasts for some reason. I don't really know why, but I was. But then I'd say within the last few years in particular, I started to listen to more podcasts. And then I truly realized the impact that a podcast can have. And I knew that, I was in the midst of working on myself and figuring out some things there. And I just thought, there's definitely people out there too that are experiencing similar things to me. So what the heck? I'm going to start talking about it. And if you know me, starting a podcast was something very out of my comfort zone. And to be honest, a lot of my family were really shocked to hear that I was going to start a podcast. I feel like I can still see the facial expression on my parents' face when I told them. I decided it was so, I don't know. I just decided that this is what I want to do. And I woke up the next morning and I was like, guys, I'm going to start a podcast. And I will just never forget the look of shock, but curiosity on my parents' face, but also oh, this is cool, but never thought I would see you doing something like that. And to be honest, I never thought I would see myself doing something like this. And so to give a little backstory, I always sucked at interviews. Interviews were, and sometimes still are, my biggest nightmare. Whenever we do the CrossFit Open every year, or an online qualifier for a competition, you have to obviously record yourself doing the workout when you submit your scores. And when I first started doing CrossFit, I kid you not, camera would start rolling and you have to do this introduction. You have to say your name, sometimes your age category, the competition you're doing, and the workout that you're doing. And literally, I couldn't even remember what to say because as soon as the camera started rolling, my mind just went blank. My mind went to mush. I could not think of anything. I just remember one time we all joke about it still. It's like I forgot my name when the camera started rolling and I had to introduce myself on this video, and it literally was not even a big deal. It was just the intro. No one cares about, you're about to do a workout. People care about the workout. They don't care about how you look at the start. And it just always made me so nervous. And I don't really know why. I think I just feared being perceived a certain way that I didn't want to, or I don't know. I really can't figure out at that time, at least, why I felt so uncomfortable in front of a camera. Maybe just looking back at other videos of myself and being like, whoa, I looked like that. And I thought in my head I looked and sounded a lot different. That's also something I've heard people say before. And I know I feel too sometimes. It's listening to yourself on video is whoa. I mean, even still for me, when I try and edit these podcasts, especially at the start, I was like, ugh, I can't hear it. But I laugh now because I think back to episode 1 and I feel like I would get nervous to listen to my first podcast episode because of just, I don't know, I feel like I just wasn't that comfortable doing this around then. And I mean, I could still use a lot more work. There's always room for improvement. But I just feel like I've come a long way in terms of my comfort level sitting here and doing this over the year. But yeah, the cameras and mics, they just make me really nervous. But I also just saw this as an opportunity to get better at those things because, you know, the more you do something, the more comfortable you get. And yeah, so I did not tell many people for a long time when I decided that I was going to start a podcast because I started to notice that I also just felt embarrassed about starting it. I don't know. I think just because I didn't know how it was going to go, like I didn't know if anyone would listen other than like my mom and some family members. Love you guys. But I truly had no idea if this would be of something of interest for certain people or if I would just be really bad at it. I remember even when I started, like I recorded episode 2 before I even announced that I had a podcast, and it was episode 2 because episode 1 I wanted to do a Q&A style. And so I recorded episode 2 before I even announced that I was going to have a podcast because I didn't know if I could even do it. And so I needed to have something under my belt where I was like, okay, I have an episode done. I know I can do this. Okay, now I can announce it. And so, yeah, that was something for me, and I was just really scared about criticism, and you know, the list could go on about the reasons as to why I began to feel like maybe this wasn't such a good idea for me to do, but I did it anyways, and I'm so glad that I took that leap of faith and decided to be vulnerable and put myself out there because this has truly been the most incredible journey for me. I feel like it has honestly taught me so much about myself. In a way, it's given me purpose and honestly just allowed me to connect with so many more people. And I knew that starting my own podcast was going to be very uncomfortable, as I've already described. But you truly don't know how something will go or if you'll enjoy doing something until you at least try. And I feel like just in life in general, there's so many times where we want to do things and try things, but we never even end up starting because of the fear of being vulnerable and putting ourselves out there and caring so much about what other people might think. And I know that's really hard to do, but that mindset just really holds us back so much in life. So this is your sign. It's good timing. We're coming to the end of 2025, which is actually crazy. I feel like this year has blown by. I literally feel like every year like goes by faster. But this is the fresh start to a new year coming up. And maybe you're starting to think about your New Year's resolutions if you do that. I personally don't feel like I really do New Year's resolutions. I feel like if I want to start something new, I'll just start something new and not have to wait until the new year for that to happen. My podcast, I guess, is an example of that. I post my first episode toward the end of 2024. But anyways, if you do New Year's resolutions, or even if you don't, I challenge you to find something that you want to do and that requires you to be vulnerable. Maybe you've been thinking about doing something for a while, but you're just too nervous to start, and you keep overthinking it and getting all these opinions from other people. Just do it. Seriously, just do it. It's scary. I know it is, but I believe in you, and it might work out the way that you want it to go, or you might need to pivot a little bit and maybe it didn't go as planned, but that's okay too because at least you tried and now you know. And I never thought that I'd be sitting here doing this podcast for literally a year. That's crazy. But cool things can happen when you decide to trust yourself and just try. And let me know through a DM or in the comments of this episode if you decide to be vulnerable and try something that you've been wanting to. I'm always interested to hear about what you guys are up to and what you're doing. Okay, so on the theme of coming to the end of year, end of 2025, which again, is crazy. This is going to be the season finale of season 1 of the Strong Girl Style podcast. So today I wanted to talk about 25 things that I learned in 2025 because, as we all know by now, this year has been the year of growth and self-improvement, and I think it could be good to reflect on all the things that I've learned and honestly just take a moment to, I guess, be proud and look back on yet another good year in the books. Even though there were a ton of ups and downs, I feel like I'm leaving 2025 a new person, a better person, and yeah, I just want to reflect on that. So, without further ado, here are 25 things I learned in 2025. Okay, number 1. Rest is just as important as training. I've talked about this before on the podcast, I think, and just becoming a lot more in tune with your body and how important that really is. I used to have the mindset of go, 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 and no stopping, and you need to be doing something productive and moving your body and working towards your goals 24/7. But did you know that in order for those things to happen, in order for you to build muscle, in order for you to get fitter, in order, honestly, even academically, in order for you to continue building your knowledge, you have to rest at some point. Your body isn't built to be going hard and grinding 24/7. And I've come to learn in this last year, honestly, just how important resting is. I feel like we get so caught up in the flow of, what's it called? Like the just culture of having to be super productive all the time. And I just want you to know that I've learned resting does not mean you're being lazy. It doesn't mean that you're not continuing to work towards your goals. That's just your body's opportunity to absorb everything that you've been trying to do and let it all sink in and recover and build and gain more energy for you to continue achieving your goals the next day. It's so important. Do not skip your rest days and do not overlook them because they're very important. Okay, number 2. Your mindset determines how you experience life. I really like this because honestly, when I heard this for the first time, when I heard this perspective, it changed my look on life, to be honest. I'm going to read it for you one more time, just so you can let it really sink in. Your mindset determines how you experience life. I used to have a very negative mindset before. Everything I felt like I have to do this. I have to work out. I have to miss out on this family dinner because I have to eat healthy and it was like I was just looking at everything that I did on a day-to-day as something that was very negative. And as soon as I started to make the shift of looking at things in a more positive light, my life truly changed. And I know that sounds like, okay, did your life really change? But it truly did. Like, I kid you not. I view things now as I get to work out because I'm grateful that my body is capable of doing all of these things, and I get to eat healthy because I get to eat food that nourishes my body and helps me achieve my goals. And even just making the slightest shift can truly make a huge impact, not only on your physical health, but your mental health. And I've felt that greatly, and it has just help make my life so much more better and just made my experiences in life feel so much more meaningful. Okay, 3. Adversity makes you better, stronger, and more resilient. I've talked about, dealing with a lot of adversity in this past year, especially when it came to my back injury. I viewed that as something really negative at the start of the year. How could this happen to me? I can't believe I hurt my back. This is setting me back. Like, I was getting so fit and now I'm doing nothing. Like, I had, again, that negative mindset. But what I've come to learn in hindsight, looking back on this past year, is that now, obviously, I don't want anyone to, hurt themselves, and I didn't want that for myself. It's unfortunate that it happened that way. But looking back in hindsight, I'm grateful for the way that things all played out, because my back injury caused me to slow down so much, and I wouldn't have before. And through that time of me slowing down, I learned so much about myself. And in turn, I truly feel like I've become a better athlete. I'm able to listen to my body so much better than I was before. I did not listen to my body ever before. I've become so much more in tune with myself in that sense that I have just become a much stronger athlete. I've become a better athlete. I've become a more resilient athlete. And I feel like I can just approach, whether it's competitions or training, with a much more positive mindset now, because I don't feel like everything has to be perfect. I thought everything had to be perfect before, and I'm telling you right now, it doesn't. And nothing will ever be perfect. And that's just life. But being able to get through those hardships in life are truly what make you a better person. So even in the moment, if it doesn't feel like a good thing, just try to make the most of it. Okay, 4. Don't try to fight change. I used to try and fight change all of the time. I do not like change. I've talked about before here. I'm a very routine person, and I don't like changing my schedule and routine, and it honestly causes me a lot of stress. But over this past year, I've really tried to lean into the change and allowed myself to be okay with change. And in turn, I feel like I feel a lot less stressed in my life. And we all know stress is not healthy for the body. So, there's good and bad stress, but that felt like a bad stress to me because everything changes constantly. Schedules come up, things come up last minute. That's just life. And trying to fight it all the time won't do you any good. Okay, 5. You can be happy and hardworking and successful at the same time. I used to think before that anytime I was having fun, that meant that I wasn't working hard enough, because in my mind, the definition of hard work and having grit and being determined felt like I had to be miserable all the time. And this is a little bit crazy to say, but when I was feeling miserable and down on myself and really in the trenches, I would feel a slight bit of satisfaction knowing, yeah, this means I'm working hard. This is what it feels like to work hard. That couldn't be further from the truth, because over this past year, as I've done so much self-growth, I've come to realize that I am very happy. I love my life. I'm achieving all of these great things that I didn't think I would. And I feel like I'm the happiest I've been in forever. And that's just really come to show me that you can be all those things at the same time. They can coexist together, and they don't need to be independent things. You can be happy and work hard at the same time. Don't forget that. Okay, 6. Fearing failure only holds you back from growth and opportunities. I feared failure so much, to the point where approaching a competition, I did not know how to handle all my emotions, because all of the emotions of being fearful of the outcome of a competition. And I felt like that just held me back so much, because it made me not like competing anymore. I was so scared of not living up to my own expectations, of external expectations, that something I once loved turned into something that I resented and I honestly hated and I didn't want to do anymore. But the more I've learned that, through what I talked about before too, is dealing with adversity, going through showing up to a competition and having no expectations for myself, just controlling what I can in the moment and showing up knowing I've done what I can to prepare. I've had the greatest experiences. I've tried to show up to all my competitions this year with that kind of mindset. And I'm afterwards just in awe of how much I learned from these events. And when I can have an optimistic mindset approaching these competitions, I just feel like they're so much more meaningful afterwards because I feel like I have so much more to take away from them. And if I continued fearing all of these competitions and failure, I feel like I wouldn't try anything new in life. And that is something to just be mindful of and be aware of. Okay, number 7. Instead of stressing about the what if this goes wrong, think what if it works out. I can't take credit for this one myself because I did hear Mel Robbins say this. If you're a Mel Robbins fan, I love that for you because I also love Mel Robbins. And if you don't already listen to Mel Robbins, she's got some great podcast topics out there. A lot of self-help, self-improvement episodes, which, as we all know, that's what I'm here for. So I heard her say, we always say to ourselves, what if this goes wrong? And what if it goes bad? And what if I don't win? And what if? And as soon as I heard her say this, and I started saying this to myself, what if it works out? And every time I get stressed now and I find myself in this cycle of the what if it goes wrong, all of the negatives, I've started saying to myself now, what if it works out? And the calmness, the peacefulness that sentence brings to me is actually insane. And if you haven't done this before, I suggest you try it because I don't know, I feel like it just puts everything back into perspective. And if you can think about all the things that it might go wrong, why can't you start thinking of all the things and ways that it could work out? Just a thought. And again, just a shift in perspective. Okay, number 8. You don't need to justify all your decisions to other people. You don't owe anyone anything. And coming from a person that is I feel like a chronic people pleaser, I always feel the need to justify my decisions and my choices and my reasons to everybody. And I feel like I need to make sure that everybody understands my perspective and my point of view and why I chose to do what I did so that they won't be upset with me. And what I've come to learn is that not everyone's going to understand why you make the decisions that you do. And that's okay. That is okay because you are making the decision because you probably know that's what's best for yourself. That's why I make some of the decisions that I do, because I know that, say it's an injury, I know that I'm the only one that knows how my body feels, and I probably know what's best for my body. And if other people can't understand that, you can't do anything about that. So, just again, you don't need to justify your decisions to other people. Okay, number 9. You won't please everyone, and that's okay. Okay, I feel like this one goes hand in hand with the one that I just talked about. But, as I said, as a people pleaser, not everyone's going to like you. And I know being on social media too, I have had a hard time at times with just comments from people. And I just want, I don't know, I feel like there's a part of everybody that you just want people to like you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like it got to a point for me where I just wanted everybody to like me. And I heard someone say, it was something along the lines of like, if you're liked by everyone, you're probably not being true to yourself, because not everyone likes the same things and not everyone is interested in, all the same topics and everything. So I feel like when I am on social media, I feel like just at times when things get negative if people messaging or commenting, I would have a hard time seeing those comments and just dealing with them because I would take everything really personally. And I'm learning to try not to take everything so personally and just make sure that I'm staying true to myself and what I believe and my values and just trying to be a good person. And that's really the best I can do. Okay, number 10. No one is judging you as much as you're probably judging yourself. We are our own biggest critics. And I can speak for myself. I know I used to judge myself a lot. And I used to think, walking by and seeing my reflection in a window, like, oh, like, I hate my outfit today, or oh, I feel like I look really weird in this. And we're constantly overthinking all of these things. And they're probably really small things. And, sometimes we feel like we're the center of the world and that everyone is just looking at us constantly and judging us and thinking all these things about us. I can tell you that's not true. Everyone, a lot of people, we're all just in our own worlds. And, all these things that you're probably saying to yourself and thinking that other people are thinking about you, they're not. They're probably not. So don't waste your energy stressing about these things. Okay, 11. This kind of carries on to what I just said. It's a waste of energy to stress about the things that are out of your control. There's been so many times where I'm stressing over whether it's certain outcomes or competitions, training, the way that people will react to me, the way that a conversation will go with somebody. There's so many scenarios in life where we spend so much time and energy stressing about how it will go and if it will go bad and wanting to change things, and honestly even, stressing about other people and their behavior and wanting to control all of these things. But the more time we spend trying to control things that we have no control over and we will never have control over, it's just a waste of time and stress and energy. So don't forget that. Okay, number 12. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Ultimately, that is how you grow. And it can be really hard to do. And, being vulnerable and putting yourself out there, getting uncomfortable is obviously uncomfortable. But it's important to do these things because that's what pushes us to learn and grow as people. And I can certainly say for myself, through this past year, there's been so many scenarios where I have felt very uncomfortable. For example, competing at the World Fitness Tour event 1, and I was very uncomfortable. That felt like a very vulnerable competition for me because it was the first competition back after hurting my back. I hadn't competed in almost a year at that point. So it already felt like an environment that I hadn't been in a really long time. But my preparation for it, I knew my back wasn't 100% and I had no idea how the competition was going to go. And not knowing and not necessarily feeling 100% prepared for that event felt like something that was really uncomfortable for me. But I showed up and I did it anyways. And I learned the most. That was a competition. I learned so much about myself that I literally haven't experienced anything like that, probably ever, in my CrossFit career so far. And had I not decided to get uncomfortable and put myself in that situation, that vulnerable situation, there were so many opportunities and just learning and growing experiences that I just wouldn't have had I not done that. So, yeah. Okay, 13. Be nice to everyone. You never know what someone else might be going through. I feel like this one is just pretty straightforward, honestly. I feel like there's so many instances where someone might be reacting a certain way or behaving a certain way. And that's not an excuse, but you truly never know what someone else has been through and what someone else is experiencing behind closed doors. And it's just really important to be mindful of that and give some people grace. Okay, 14. Stay curious. There's so much to learn. I feel like I say this because, I've been out of school now for, I think, 3 years, coming up on 3 years. And I went through this phase, and I am in this phase now, where I'm like craving learning new things. And I'm trying to, be more on top of that and wanting to be more curious about things. I truly felt like I stopped putting in an effort after I finished school. It was like, oh, thank goodness that's done. No more tests, no more studying. This is great. But then I just feel like your mind just becomes so closed off. It's really important to ask questions, stay curious. And I also used to get into this habit where in conversations, I would just agree with people, even if I had no idea what they were talking about, or I would like get scared of asking more questions because I didn't want to be overstepping. And obviously got to read the situation, but I didn't want to make myself look stupid either by not knowing what they were talking about. But what I've come to learn is that no person knows everything. There's always more things to learn. And now I would rather ask the questions and educate myself than sit there and pretend like I know everything when I don't. No one knows everything. So ask questions, stay curious. I've started listening to more podcasts now, more like educational podcasts. I love reading. Doing all these things to kind of stimulate your brain in that way is always a good thing. Okay, 15. People will doubt you, but it's important that you keep going. There's always going to be people that don't agree with what you're doing, or they don't see the vision, or they don't think that you have it in you to achieve the goals that you set for yourself. But like I said, it's really important that you trust yourself and that you keep going, because there's so many people in this world, myself included. Had you told me 10 years ago, heck, even 5 years ago, I would be where I am today, I would not believe you. Literally not at all. I would not believe you. And I'm sure that if I talked about these things to other people in my circle at that time, maybe not my inner circle of people was always very supportive, but there's always going to be the haters. There's always going to be people that, don't think you can go all the way. And yeah, I just think that, there were times for me in school where people didn't directly say these things, but I was very disciplined from a really young age, and I could just sense from other people that they thought that what I was doing was silly and like, why do you have to eat so healthy all the time? Can't you come out and eat with us? Why do you have to go to the gym again? Like, can't you come hang out with us? Things like that. I stayed true to myself at that time, even though it was hard. I'm not saying it was easy, but I got through that time because I knew what I wanted. I knew what I enjoyed, and I put all my effort towards those things, and here we are today. So hard work will always get you there, and yeah, don't let people doubt you. 16. Ask for help when you need it. That does not make you weak. I used to think that I had to do everything myself in order for me to feel like I used to think asking for help felt like cheating in a sense. Like I was very hard on myself in the sense that I had to figure everything out for myself, and I couldn't ask for help because I felt like that made me weak. And I'm here to tell you, it does not. The more that I've opened up and started talking to people and, allowed other people to be a part of my journey, it has been so much more fulfilling. It has helped me so much more myself. Kind of like what I said before. You don't know everything. I don't know everything. And the more that we can lean on other people around us, the better everything will be. So don't forget that. Okay, 17. I feel like I keep saying that. Don't forget that. I won't forget this too. These are all, my favorite lessons. Okay, 17. There's a silver lining to everything that happens, even if you can't see it at first. I feel like I touched on this a little bit, but for real, again, going back to my back injury, I didn't see that as a good thing that happened to me at the time. And that happened at the beginning of the year. I felt crushed. I felt like I was falling behind. I couldn't do the open for the first time in, gosh, I don't even know how many years. I've been doing the open for as long as I can remember. Even before I was even old enough to register for the open, I was doing the open. And when that all happened, I just felt so lost. I didn't know what to do with myself. I couldn't see the positive, even though I was trying in that situation. And I, had no idea what my future held. Little did I know that 2025 was going to be probably one of the best years yet of my life in terms of just my happiness, my confidence, my ability to have fun competing again and training again. And that was something that I lost for so long. And honestly, I attribute all of that to my back injury. And had it not been for that, I wouldn't have slowed down and I wouldn't have taken the time to actually care for myself and like my mental health. And so I'm just grateful for that time. Obviously, like I said, you never want to see anyone get hurt or get hurt yourself, but I feel like I'm a true believer in that things happen for a reason. And I truly feel like I needed that to happen for me in order to grow and become the person that I am today. Okay, 18. Your health is so important. So make sure you take care of yourself and manage your stress. I've learned in this past month in particular just how important your health is. I talked about having bronchitis, and if I'm being so for real, I'm still not better, which is a whole nother thing. But anyways, I feel like in this time and just like feeling like I'm constantly fighting with my body and not having my health be fully there, it's just truly put things into perspective for me for how important your health is. And just if you're not healthy, how much that impacts your quality of life. And so, I obviously eat healthy to support my goals, but I also eat healthy to be a healthy person because I want longevity. I want to live for a long time. I want to have a fulfilling life where I don't feel like I'm being held back by my body. And I feel like in this day and age, you see so many people that, life catches up to you and it comes to a point where sometimes it's too late. And I don't ever want that to happen for me and, for my family too. But my family's been such a huge influence on me and my lifestyle, which I'm super grateful for, my parents in particular. But yeah, I feel like recently it's really opened my eyes to how important your health is. And I also hear, so many people talking about stress and you need to manage your stress, but stress takes a huge toll on our bodies, and that coming from someone who stresses a lot. I stress about everything, like the smallest things too. I'm sure Jack goes crazy hearing him always like, I'm stressed about this, I'm stressed about this. Meanwhile, he has an insanely, on paper, stressful life just with how busy he is, but he always manages it so well. So I admire that a lot about him. But anyways, I'm learning ways to help manage my stress because I know in my health journey in general, that's an area that could use a lot of work for me. And, I don't like taking any medications or anything like that. I would rather, I feel like I would be more I'm more the natural route kind of person, if possible. And so for me, I've turned a lot to yoga and meditation. I love yoga. I actually do it quite often. But that for me just feels like a space where I can focus on my breath and I feel like I can just relieve a lot of tension in that space. So, maybe yoga's not your jam or meditation, but if there's something that you can find that can help you manage your stress and relieve some of that, I think that's really important. Okay, 19. It's important to have outlets that bring you peace, calmness, and joy. I feel like you can tell I wrote these in order of how they came to my mind because my outlet, in which I just talked about, is yoga. I love going to yoga, and it's been something I've been doing yoga for a really long time. Actually, when I first started yoga, it was because I kind of just needed an escape, to be honest. Like, just the way that I was feeling at that time, mentally, physically, I needed a space that just calmed my mind. And I love going to yoga because it's just movement that feels so good. It feels so intentional with the breath work, and I always leave a class feeling so much better than when I arrived, and that's just the best feeling ever. So to me, yoga's my outlet, and I encourage you, if you don't already have one, to find an activity or whatever that might be that you can just do here and there sometimes, but it can really just help ground you and bring you back down to your calm state. Okay, 20. Surround yourself with like-minded people. I think this is really important. And, I always hear the saying, you are who you surround yourself with. And I feel like that is very true. I've definitely noticed in my life at times that, you kind of, whether you realize it or not, morph in a sense into the crowd of people that you're hanging around. And so I heard also someone say, like, if you look at the people that you're hanging out with, or maybe who you're dating or whoever, and someone came up to you and they told you that you're very similar, or they remind you a lot of, if someone came up to me and said, you remind me a lot of like Jack, or like you do this and it reminds me of Jack, would I take, like, just to think for yourself, if there's someone in your life that if someone came up to you and said, oh, like they remind me, or you remind me a lot of them. Sorry, hopefully my words aren't getting too confusing. Would you take that as a compliment, or would you be offended? I feel like that's something to actually take into consideration. I forget where I heard this. I think it was on a podcast somewhere. I can't take credit for this mindset, but it actually, like, it was like a whoa. Oh my gosh, I've never thought of it that way before. And obviously you want to take that as a compliment. If you're offended to be compared to someone in your inner circle, I feel like that's something you kind of got to look into a little further. Are these the people that you want to be hanging out with? Are they, if they're not really the kind of person that you want to be, that's something to reconsider. Okay, 21. There's always time if you make the time. I have always, I feel like, maybe not always, but I turned into this person where anything that would inconvenience me in the slightest, I was always just, I'm too busy. I can't. I don't have time. I can't do it. I'm too busy. Until I heard this, someone say that there's always time if you make the time. And another moment of like, whoa, what the heck? Because when you really think about it, then when I actually looked at my schedule, I'm like, I could do this if I just shifted some things around a little bit more. If I, my day might be a little more jam-packed, but there is time. And I feel like I used to be like this way also, still working on it, so I can say maybe I still am this way. But I started to become a procrastinator, and things would pile up and I would be like, "Oh, I don't have time to do it. I don't have time to get this podcast episode out. I don't have time to, respond to all these emails today while doing all of these other things." And that was like my initial response. But then when I would sit down and I would actually be like, no, like there was time. I just didn't make the time. I spent 20, 30 minutes scrolling on my phone instead of writing out some notes for the episode or, whatever the case may be. But I feel like that was just a good mindset shift for me to have, where it was like, there probably is time. You just might need to get better at managing your time. And that was for me. So, yeah. Okay, 22. Allow yourself to feel all your emotions, because pushing them down will not make them go away. I learned this so hard in the last year. Like, I always used to be someone that shoved down my emotions, thinking that that will make them go away, and don't want to talk about it because it just makes me frustrated. But in reality, pushing those emotions down, it does not make them go away. In fact, it probably just makes them build up even more, because every time you hear something related to those emotions, that's just almost like ammo you're throwing in at them. And so if you're going to be sad, be sad. Don't feel like you have to stay strong and you can't show emotion and all of these things. Let it out, seriously. Cry if you need to cry. Like, if you're upset, if you're angry, feel angry. Like, you can feel all of these emotions. Of course, I'm not talking about certain behaviors. I'm just saying, allow yourself to feel everything that you're feeling. And I promise you, it will feel like a weight lifted off afterwards, because you're not going to be holding on to these things forever and ever. You've let them out, and then you can move on from them. It took me a long time to figure out. But every time I'm feeling emotions now, I allow myself to feel irritated, to feel upset, to feel angry. And I always notice that however long it takes me to get over it, sometimes it's short, like 20 minutes, or sometimes it's a little longer, like a day or a couple or something. But I always get them out, and then I'm okay. And yeah, I've just found that to be really helpful. 23. We're almost there, you guys. Hang in there. You won't know if you enjoy something until you try it. So just try it. So yeah, I talked about this at the start, about being vulnerable and trying something that you don't want to do. And like I said, this relates to my podcast. Who would have thought we're sitting here a year later, and if I didn't decide to start it because I was scared, which I was, as you know, as I talked about at the start, I wouldn't know and I wouldn't be here. So this is your sign. Like I said, put yourself out there. You won't regret it. 24. Being vulnerable is scary, but so worth the discomfort. Again, this kind of relates, but as I said before at the start, it's really uncomfortable to put yourself in certain positions. And sometimes you just got to rip the Band-Aid off and do it. And I'm telling you right now, like I said, you won't regret it. It will be so worth it. And I feel like you'll just experience life with so much more meaning. Okay, 25. The last thing I have to say out of my 25 things I learned in 2025. You are the person that you talk to the most. So don't forget to be kind to that person. Another Mel Robbins. Love her. I heard her say this on a podcast and it just really resonated with me. She said, she was asking someone, she actually had a guest on the podcast. And the guest asked, who do you talk to the most? And she was like, my husband, my manager. Yeah, those are probably my two people I talk to the most. And when she's saying this, this person is asking Mel this, I'm thinking who the people are in my head that I talk to the most. And she stops her and she goes, no, you talk to yourself the most. And then I thought about it and I was like, dang, like, yeah, I spend the most time with myself, I guess. Like, you're always thinking to yourself, you're always talking to yourself. And it's so easy sometimes to be not nice to that person, which is really sad. Like, I've heard people say, if you talk to your best friend the way that you talk to yourself, would that make you upset? Like, would that be a kind person? And I was always thinking, like, no, like, I can be so mean to myself sometimes. We are always criticizing ourselves. You know, we're all always telling ourselves we could have done this better. We should have done this. We're so hard on ourselves all the time. And I know that, you know, I have been extremely hard on myself in the past. And it's something that I'm continuing to work on, is just being kinder to myself. But I feel like hearing that, and it's like, I talk to myself the most. And particularly in the past, when I would talk to myself, it was really hard for me to say something nice about myself. Someone asked me once, tell me 3 things that you like about yourself. When I was like really struggling, they asked me that question. And I sat there and I'm thinking, and I'm like, every time I would go to say something like, oh, I like my hair. No, but it's ugly and it's dead and it's not this and whatever. They're like, oh, but like, I like my outfit. Oh, wait, no, my outfit was actually really ugly. Like, I would always intercept these positive thoughts with something that I turned it into something negative. And I just realized that, like, I can't even say 3 things that I like about myself. And that was just a huge wake up call for me to be like, wow, I'm really not kind to myself. I'm really not nice to myself. And yeah, just don't forget, you talk to yourself the most, and make sure that you are being kind to yourself, because it's just really important. And it kind of goes back to the second thing, number 2 on this list, was that your mindset determines how you experience your life. And if you're always being so negative and talking down to yourself, you know, that doesn't help with your self-esteem, and then honestly just how you experience your life in general. So you guys, oh my gosh, I'm just so grateful for this podcast, and I appreciate all of you so much that reach out, that comment. I see you, everyone that listens. You all mean so much to me, and I just want to thank you for being here, because so many of you have continued to encourage me through all the doubt that I had in myself at the beginning, and even sometimes still doing this. But this has honestly just been so much fun. I know I'm not the most consistent on here, but when I do create episodes and I share them, I just absolutely love it. And you best believe there will be a season 2 starting up in the new year, so we will be back. But I'm just going to be taking a little break over the holidays to enjoy some time with family and friends, and I hope that you guys do too. And if you guys have any ideas that you want to see happen, or people you want to hear from, or topics, or whatever in season 2, always let me know. But yeah, I think I will leave it there for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you guys have the best holiday season and new year, and I will see you back in 2026. Bye.